Hello again. Well, I hear you ask, what's all this about? Well, it's not about these, and it's not about these, and it's not even about him. It starts with these. Hadrian's Wall is one of the best known features of the English countryside, and the Antonine Wall, built in central Scotland some 20 years after Hadrian's Wall, is not so well known, possibly because it wasn't built so sturdily and much less of it survives. Hadrian was born in AD 76 in Italica, a colony of Italian settlers in Spain. The family had moved there from the Italian city of Atri, or Adrea, on the east coast of the country, very close to the sea which shares its name, namely the Adriatic. His father was a first cousin of the Emperor Trajan, and Hadrian had married Trajan's great niece early in his career before Trajan became emperor. Trajan's family were well disposed towards Hadrian, and when Trajan died, his widow claimed that he had nominated Hadrian as emperor immediately before his death. Hadrian energetically pursued his own imperial ideals and personal interests. He visited almost every province of the empire. He encouraged military preparedness and discipline, and he fostered, designed, or personally subsidized various civil and religious institutions and building projects. In Rome itself, he rebuilt the Pantheon and constructed the vast temple of Venus and Roma. Another of his building projects was the magnificent Villa Adriana, built for his personal use just outside Rome. He was an ardent admirer of all things Greek and sought to make Athens the cultural centre of the empire, so he ordered the construction of many opulent temples there. This statue, which for years people said personified his attachment to Greek ideals, was recently found to be a forgery, cobbled together by putting a head of Hadrian onto the sculptured torso of an unknown Greek man. Fake sculptures, in fact. Hadrian visited Britain in AD 22 and ordered the commencement of the building of the wall. This was to be the northern limit of the Roman Empire. Immediately north of this, there were the lands of the northern ancient Britons, including the Picts. It is a common misconception that Hadrian's Wall marks the boundary between England and Scotland. In fact, it lies entirely within England and has never formed the border. Whilst it is less than half a mile from the border with Scotland in the west, in the east it is as much as 68 miles away. The wall was ordered by Hadrian in response to major rebellions which had broken out in England between 119 and 121 AD. Hadrian is said to have initiated the construction of the wall to separate Romans from barbarians. However, the idea that this wall was built in order to deal with an actual threat is probable but nevertheless conjectural. It's more likely that it was a general desire to cease the empire's extension, and also the reduction of defence costs may have played a role, as the wall deterred attacks on the territory at a lower cost than a massed border army. It also controlled cross-border trade and immigration. By the end of 122, Hadrian had concluded his visit to Britannia, and he never saw the finished wall that bears his name. The wall traverses wild and beautiful countryside in the north of England. As a slight side issue, this is the sycamore gap tree. It stands next to the wall at Cragloch in Northumberland. It is located in a dramatic dip in the landscape and is a popular photographic subject, described as one of the most photographed trees in the country. It won the 2016 England Tree of the Year award. It is also known as the Robin Hood tree, not through any connection with the legendary hero of Sherwood Forest, but because it featured in the 1991 Kevin Costner film Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Anyway, back to the wall. Much of the wall was dismantled and used for road building in the 18th century, but it is still possible to visit many parts of it and the remains of some of the many forts that were built along its length. In 2010, to commemorate the 1600th anniversary of the end of Roman rule in Britain, a series of 500 beacons were successively lit along the whole length of the wall. On the death of Hadrian in 138, his adopted son Antoninus Pius became emperor. Despite this military-looking statue, he was not a military man. In fact, it is almost certain that at no time in his life did he ever see, let alone command, a Roman army, and that in the 23 years of his reign he never went within 500 miles of a legion. For all that, he was an effective administrator, and his reign is notable for the peaceful state of the empire during it. Following a successful military campaign in southern Scotland early in the reign, Antoninus began to order this construction of the Antonine Wall. This began in AD 142 and it took about 12 years to complete. Antoninus Pius never visited Britain, unlike his predecessor Hadrian. The wall was protected by 16 forts, with small fortlets between them. Troop movement was facilitated by a road linking all the sites, known as the Military Way. The soldiers who built the wall commemorated the construction and their struggles with the Caledonians with decorative slabs, 20 of which survive. The wall stretches for 39 miles, from Old Kilpatrick in West Dunbartonshire on the Firth of Clyde to Caradon on the Firth of Forth. It was intended to extend Roman territory and dominance by replacing Hadrian's Wall, 99 miles to the south, as the new frontier of Britannia. But whilst the Romans did establish some forts and temporary camps further north of the wall in order to protect their routes, they did not conquer the Caledonians, and the Antonine Wall suffered many attacks. The Antonine Wall was shorter than Hadrian's Wall, and it was built of turf on a stone foundation, but it was still an impressive achievement. It was also a simpler fortification than Hadrian's Wall. As you can see, the remains are not nearly as impressive as on Hadrian's Wall. And the wall was abandoned only 8 years after completion, when the Roman legions withdrew back to Hadrian's Wall in AD 162. Both Hadrian and Antoninus were buried in the mausoleum that Hadrian had constructed in Rome, now known as Castel Sant'Angelo. And that gives me an idea for my next jaunt. Thank you for joining me. Until the next time, goodbye for now.